Your seafood dinner might come with more than just flavor, depending on where you shop. It could come with a side of bacteria, deception, and questionable storage. Behind those pristine ice displays and sleek packaging lies a troubling truth that most shoppers never suspect. That shimmering salmon fillet or neatly vacuum-sealed cod might look fresh. But what if it was already halfway to spoiled? What if that wild caught label is just marketing gloss on a fish that's been mishandled from catch to cart? It's time we peel back the plastic wrap and look at what's really going on in your grocery store's seafood section. Because not all fish are created or stored equally. Some chains treat seafood like the fragile, perishable protein it is. Others treat it like a box of crackers. And when that happens, what ends up on your plate might not be just disappointing. It could be dangerous. Today, we're diving into 5 grocery stores where what looks fresh might just be trouble in disguise. And we're starting with one that might surprise you. Clean aisles, smiling staff, and a loyal Midwestern following. But behind the polished shelves of Meijer lies a fish department full of red flags. Meijer has long built a reputation on being tidy, dependable, and family-friendly. But their seafood section, it tells a different story. Much of Meijer's fish comes through mass distributors operating on razor-thin timelines and minimal oversight. That means the fish is often thawed in bulk, rushed to the store, and hits the shelves with barely a day or two before it begins to break down. A 2023 consumer report found that Meijer's prepackaged fresh fish had one of the shortest usable shelf lives among major grocery chains. Out of 30 fillets tested, nearly half were deemed borderline spoiled within 48 hours, despite labels claiming they'd stay good for up to 5 days. One expert put it bluntly, the label said 5 days. The smell said, throw it out now. Even Meijer's frozen options don't escape scrutiny. In blind taste tests, their breaded fish, sticks, and fillets consistently landed near the bottom for both flavor and texture. Reviewers described them as soggy, bland, and, perhaps most damning, comparable to microwaved sponges. Not exactly the kid-friendly meal Meijer promotes. And since children are more vulnerable to foodborne illnesses, that soggy fish stick becomes more than a dinner disappointment. It becomes a risk. But poor quality isn't the only concern. A whistleblower from a Michigan Meijer store revealed that seafood training was treated like an afterthought. New employees received a quick 15-minute walkthrough on rotating stock and labeling dates, with no follow-up, no refresher training, and no regular temperature checks. If it looked okay, he said, it got stocked. That might work for cereal, it doesn't work for fish. Temperature tracking is another sore spot. A consumer safety group discovered that nearly 40% of seafood displays across 20 Meijer locations were holding fish above the recommended safe threshold. One of the worst offenders had tilapia sitting at 48 degrees high stir for hours. No ice, no alerts, and no one checking. Warm fish, sweating inside sealed plastic, is not a dinner plan, it's a bacteria party. And then there's the packaging. Some Meijer stores use clear wrap that fogs up almost instantly, making it hard to judge the fish's color or condition. Others label fish as wild caught, without stating where it was caught or processed. In fact, vague terms like product of multiple countries have appeared on everything from cod to pollock to flounder. Offering no clear traceability, just confusion. It feels less like you're buying dinner, and more like you're playing grocery store roulette. To make matters worse, Meijer's supply chain includes vendors flagged in environmental audits for poor sustainability practices. Some of their frozen fish was traced to overfished regions and farms with questionable water quality controls. That means your fillet might carry more than protein. It could be laced with microplastics, mercury, or chemical residues. You thought you were eating clean. Turns out, your dinner might be closer to a chemistry experiment. And that's just store number 5. If that sounds bad, wait until you see who's next on the list. Coming in second on the list of stores is Walmart, the biggest name in American retail, and unfortunately, one of the most alarming when it comes to seafood safety. If you thought cold cases meant safe fish, Think again. Because behind Walmart's expansive displays and bargain bin pricing lies a seafood department full of red flags, some of them blinking. Let's start with temperature control. Independent tests conducted in 2022 found that fish displays in multiple Walmart stores hovered between 42 degree Fahrenheit and 50 degree Fahrenheit. That's well above the FDA recommended safety limit of 40 degree Fahrenheit for raw seafood. To the average shopper, that might not seem like a big deal. But according to food safety experts, it's the difference between dinner and disaster. One food scientist compared it to leaving sushi in your car on a spring afternoon, except you're paying full price for the privilege. And the fish themselves tell the story. Customers have reported packages with cloudy, slimy liquid, brownish edges, or that unmistakable low-tide smell, the kind that punches you in the face when you open the fridge. Walmart sources much of its seafood from large-scale overseas suppliers, where inspection standards are inconsistent at best and non-existent at worst. In one case, imported shrimp from a foreign processor had to be recalled after testing positive for antibiotics banned in the U.S. Walmart pulled it, only after the media picked up the story. By then, hundreds of people had already bought and eaten it. Even the frozen section isn't safe. A former Walmart employee confessed that frozen fish was sometimes left to thaw during stocking or transport, then refrozen, a blatant violation of food safety protocols. According to him, you could tell which packages had gone through this cycle because the ice looked weird and flaky. Refreezing doesn't just ruin the texture, it creates micro-pockets where bacteria can thrive inside the fish's flesh, far beyond what surface cooking can eliminate. You might be better off fishing in a puddle. And then there's the packaging. Many Walmart fish products come vacuum sealed in thin plastic, offering almost no protection from punctures. A minor bump, a dropped bag, or a rough ride home could compromise the seal, leading to slow leaks, spoilage, and even cross-contamination. Several customers shared horror stories of opening their grocery bags to find fish juice coating everything from produce to sandwich bread. That's not surf and turf, that's surf and tragedy. But what makes Walmart's seafood department especially problematic isn't just what's happening, it's that so little is being done to stop it. Despite numerous complaints, Walmart continues to operate on high-volume, low-margin systems that prioritize turnover over safety. Employees are often undertrained, underpaid, and overstretched. One insider admitted that seafood temperature logs were sometimes pencil-whipped, filled out without actual checks, just to meet corporate requirements. And as if all that weren't enough, Walmart also has a track record of vague or misleading labels. Phrases like fresh packed or responsibly sourced are slapped on packages that may have been frozen for months or processed in facilities with a history of violations. The terms sound official, but often mean absolutely nothing. It's retail smoke and mirrors hiding a chilling truth. The most dangerous fish in the store might be the one that looks perfectly fine. So next time you're tempted by that $4 bag of tilapia or that shiny salmon fillet under the bright Walmart lights, ask yourself, do I trust this store to keep my seafood safe? If the answer is even slightly uncertain, put it down, because nothing ruins dinner like fish that never should have been sold in the first place. At number 3 is a store that practically oozes charm. Hawaiian shirts, quirky product names, handwritten signs, Trader Joe's feels like the kind of place you can trust. But step behind the carefully curated aesthetic, and the seafood section reveals a different story. One not of whimsy, but of mislabeling, misinformation, and mishandling that could put your health at risk. Trader Joe's has built its brand on personality. But when it comes to fish, that personality masks a serious identity crisis. Multiple studies have shown that some of Trader Joe's most popular frozen fish products, like their wild-caught mahi-mahi or sockeye salmon, are frequently mislabeled. One investigation by an ocean advocacy group found that over 20% of Trader Joe's fish didn't match what was on the label. You thought you were getting one species, but ended up with another. And while that may sound like a harmless mix-up, it goes far deeper than honesty. It's a serious safety risk. Mislabeled fish means unknown origins, unpredictable storage histories, and potential health hazards. Imagine someone with a seafood allergy buying what they believe is a safe species, only to discover too late that it's something else entirely. One California mother told a troubling story. She bought what was labeled wild salmon, but when she had it tested after her child got sick, it turned out to be farm-raised trout, cheaper, fattier, and more likely to carry parasites if not handled properly. And handling, it turns out, is another weak point. Trader Joe's stores are relatively small, and their staffing model means employees juggle multiple responsibilities. Fish handling is rarely a priority. A former worker shared that seafood often sat for long stretches without a single temperature check. During restocking, fillets were sometimes left on the floor in the back room for 15-20 minutes. That may not sound like much, but to a microbiologist, that's long enough for bacteria to throw a house party. Customers have also noticed the inconsistency. Some boxes of frozen cod smell clean and neutral. Others, from the same shelf, reek like a fish market at closing time. That's not a fluke. It's a symptom of inconsistent handling and lax storage procedures. Then there's the packaging. Trader Joe's leans heavily into branding, but beneath the clever names and rustic fonts, many of their fish products come from the same mass processors used by discount chains. In fact, one popular frozen shrimp item was traced back to a supplier banned in several European countries for health violations. So while the label might say wild Argentinian red shrimp, what you're actually buying is something far murkier, possibly from a processor that cuts corners on quality, cleanliness, or both. And that sticker price? It may be lower than at premium seafood markets, but the hidden cost could be much higher. Because when it comes to fish, clever marketing doesn't keep bacteria away. Trader Joe's gets a lot of things right, but when it comes to seafood, they've built a brand on trust and broken it with every mislabeled fillet and forgotten temperature check. Their fish may come dressed in whimsy, but it carries risks that are anything but playful. And now, it's time for the worst offender. The #1 grocery store where seafood safety sinks to dangerous depths. If you thought things couldn't get any worse, wait until you hear what's going on behind the seafood counter at Walmart. Sliding into the #4 spot is a grocery giant that serves millions across the country, and sometimes serves up a side of contamination with your cod. Kroger may offer convenience, wide selection, and competitive pricing, but when it comes to seafood, their practices are anything but safe. Behind the polished counters and sparkling cases lies a disturbing pattern of poor temperature control, risky thawing methods, and staff who often don't know or don't follow basic food safety. One leaked internal memo from 2021 revealed a jaw-dropping practice. Some Kroger locations were defrosting frozen fish in standing water instead of under refrigeration. Sure, it's faster, but it also creates a perfect lukewarm playground for bacteria to thrive. Picture your tilapia floating in a warm bathtub, slowly absorbing every microbial surprise it can find. That's not a meal. That's a microbiology experiment. Local health department audits haven't been kind to Kroger either. Store after store has been cited for seafood violations, ranging from improper labeling to outright cross-contamination. In one particularly disturbing inspection, cooked shrimp was found sitting side by side with raw fish. No barrier, no protection, no logic. It's Food Safety 101, and Kroger failed it, like a student who didn't even open the textbook. Another inspection found thawed fish stored in pans without any ice, left out for hours. When questioned, the store manager's defense was, "It still feels cold to me." That's not science. That's wishful thinking. And when it comes to seafood, wishful thinking can land you in the ER. But it doesn't stop there. Kroger's supplier network is vast, inconsistent, and alarmingly opaque. A single box of Atlantic salmon might come from a certified sustainable farm in Norway, or from an unregulated pond in China, pumped with questionable chemicals. Unlike other chains that provide catch areas or processing locations, Kroger keeps it vague. Their packaging uses soothing terms like responsibly sourced, a phrase that sounds comforting but has no legal definition. It might mean something, or it might mean absolutely nothing at all. And if you think freezing solves everything, think again. Some of Kroger's frozen fish options have been found to contain ice crystals on the outside, an indicator that the product may have thawed and been refrozen, a serious breach of food safety. Not only does that ruin the texture, but it opens the door to bacterial growth deep inside the flesh, where your oven may not reach. In a product as delicate as fish, every minute matters, every temperature check counts, and every shortcut is a gamble. But at Kroger, shortcuts seem to be the norm. Whether it's defrosting tilapia in warm water, stacking raw and cooked items together, or slapping vague labels on seafood of unknown origin, the pattern is clear. Fish safety here is more suggestion than standard. And we're only halfway through the countdown. If you thought Kroger's seafood section was risky, wait until we dive into the fishy practices of a store known for being trendy, friendly, and surprisingly deceptive. So how did it get this bad? Simple. Fish is fragile. It spoils fast, hides contamination well, and gives you no second chances. And yet, many grocery chains treat it like cereal on a shelf. One mistake in the cold chain, catch, transport, display, and what looks fresh might be loaded with bacteria. Labels like fresh packed or responsibly sourced might sound safe, but they often mean nothing. Meanwhile, poor training and cross-contamination behind the counter turn seafood departments into food safety nightmares. Yes, consumers play a part, but if the fish is already borderline when it hits your cart, the damage is already done. So be sharp, learn what fresh fish looks like, ask real questions, and don't assume price equals quality. And most of all, trust your instincts. If it smells off, walk away. Some fish on ice should have stayed in the ocean. Thanks for watching. If this opened your eyes to what's really behind the seafood counter, give us a like, hit subscribe, and share it. Because when it comes to seafood, trust isn't automatic. It's earned.